237 is a JumperScape audio production. You've entered a place of fear and dread. Welcome to Room 237.
Hello, it's not spooky month anymore. Welcome back to Room 237. I'm James.
I'm Ashton.
What are we doing?
So, I messed up. I have to put that out there right away. Today we watched Woman of the Hour, directed by Anna Kendrick, starring Anna Kendrick. I really thought this was a horror movie because everyone on TikTok said it was.
Here's the thing. I would call it horror adjacent at least.
It's classified as thriller mystery.
Yeah. So horror adjacent.
Yeah.
This is a true crime movie. We knew that going in.
I just thought it would be more horror.
Yeah, I mean, it is horrifying.
It is horrifying, that's for sure.
The thing is, usually with true crime movies, they're going to be thrillers because if you play them as horror, it comes across as very disrespectful.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's not shocking. Considering the only horror movies I can think of that are very, very much modeled after real events are bargain bin DVDs of Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy made into horror movies.
Oh God. Oh no.
It's not very common to have a real true crime story told as a conventional horror movie.
Mm.
It's usually just going to be a drama, and the horror comes in the things you see. This is real, and so for the uninitiated, it's a movie about wow, I'm blanking on his name already. Rodney Al-Qaeda.
I almost said Al Qaeda.
We have to get this right. We have to get this right.
Rodney Al something.
Alcala. Rodney Alcala.
Not Al Qaeda.
He was a serial killer in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And he appeared on The Dating Game. In
the middle of his murder spree.
In the middle of his murder spree, he was on The Dating Game, the TV show. Everyone knows what The Dating Game is.
Yeah.
Bachelor number one.
Yeah.
And so but I think it's a very interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, makes sense that someone would want to make a movie about this, but I think therein lies the issue is with this movie that I have, because I do like it, but it feels like a collection of horror shorts
kind of pieced together.
It's not very digestible, and I don't mean that because because the subject matter is hard to watch. I mean it because it's told in such a weird way.
Yeah.
It's not chronological at all.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Do you think it would be better if it was chronological?
I think so. I mean, I understand Anna Kendrick because as a directorial debut, it's actually really well done.
Mm-hmm.
And I give her props for that. But I think having Cheryl, who is the contestant in real life,
mm-hmm.
be the central character, I think that might have been a misstep, because I thought actually the story with the girl who escaped him was a lot more interesting.
But it's short.
It is short.
And I think along those lines too is the draw to the movie is the dating game section. So they wanted to make that the basis or the home, I guess, for the story. So that's why we get Cheryl as our main character, just to pull us in. I feel like maybe if it would have been through the eyes of Rodney or something, that would maybe have made it pieced together a little better. However,
it would have been a bit less. It would have been bad.
Yes,
You don't do
because
that.
it would have been
It would have been Dahmer.
It would have been Dahmer. It would not have been appropriate. So I see what happened here, and I can see why it was done the way it was. It just didn't there was a point in which I went, did that say 79 or did it say 69? Mm-hmm. Did that say, because it really does jump around the years a lot with kind of no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, because the main through line of the story is the game, the dating game timeline. And they but they would continuously cut to his crimes to show you like what he's done, but they'd be all over the place. Like you jump back to 1977, then suddenly you're in 1979, and meanwhile the dating game happened in 1978, and you just jump back and forth from before and after the main like timeline of the movie, like often.
It needs a through line for why it's jumping.
Yes,
that's what it's missing. Because if it had a through line for why it's jumping,
or segues into why it's jumping,
that would maybe have made it work better. I understand that you want to do something different. I like the idea of having the dating game, like the game show, being the central point for the movie, because in a lot of these types of movies, it's always the trial.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what makes the most sense. It's easiest to jump back and forth to tell the different stories because because there's a trial. But I understand not wanting to do that and wanting to try something different. There just needs to be a through line. Like, I did journal entry, something, someone's diary, like just something.
And like
an interview.
For the most part, it's fine. I just sometimes it just kind of felt like I would get taken out because
you also had to pee a lot.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get taken out of the movie when you have to pee and you have to leave.
I mean, that happens.
To be fair.
But I mean, that's normal for me. But man, I lost my train of thought. You speak now.
But yeah, so it's a very interesting movie. I think the decisions made with it were interesting. I also want to say, like, for being this type of true crime film, it does have a good amount of tact. The message that comes through here is less of don't trust men. It's more of why don't people listen to women, which I really appreciated, because over and over again, you're seeing women not be listened to.
Because over the 3 years of his killing spree, he was not shy about being seen and witnessed. Mm-hmm. And
he was reported multiple times.
He was reported. But he was never apprehended. And mm-hmm. in fact, after he was finally arrested, after the woman who escaped him called the police, he was released on bail, killed 2 more people, and then got rearrested.
Yeah.
And it's
the 2 more people included a 12-year-old child, by the way. So
quite an uplifting episode we have for you today, folks.
Yeah.
You know,
you don't see Anna Kendrick's name in like a title of a movie and think, wow, I'm going to be depressed today. But in fact, that is what happened.
This is this will be our little experiment with true crime. I already don't think it's going to stick. But what would you? It feels distasteful to give this a goofy rating. I'm just gonna say 7.5.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same range, probably around a 7.5.
Yeah, I think that's the right call. I'm not gonna do our silly star ratings for a movie about real life murder, with real life people.
And that's the thing is, like, this movie, it while it is profiting off of telling these stories. I will say that it doesn't feel like they're trying to take advantage of that.
No, because this movie, to my knowledge, was pretty much a passion project from Anna Kendrick, and it took a lot to get it off the ground, and like it made the festival rounds. It wasn't like a capital B big budget.
And she
movie.
even said, and this is from what I know, I'm not exactly sure because she's been doing interviews about it, but I've only seen a couple of them. So Netflix paid $11 million or something like that for this movie, and she ended up donating it, from what I have been made aware of, because she felt, quote unquote, gross profiting off of this film. So that's something I really appreciate. It feels more like, like she really did want to just tell the story, and she didn't feel that she had to use it.
Well, that's more than money. I can say for the people who made Dahmer.
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
Because I think that's an apt comparison.
Oh no, it is.
Because I don't know if you watched.
Which one are we? Which one is Dahmer?
Dahmer, the Netflix series. They just released another series about the Menendez brothers.
Well, then there's that one, and then there's the Ted Bundy one, which I think is almost worse.
Oh, the one with Zac Efron in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would.
The reason I don't hate the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie as much is like this movie, it shows just enough of the crime. You know, that you get the idea.
I don't think I've watched Dahmer.
Dahmer shows gratuitous detail of a lot of these crimes. It might cut away, but it gets way too into the ins and outs of what Dahmer did. And it's a problem. And I think it's an even bigger problem in the newer one, the Menendez brothers one. I haven't finished it. I watched the first episode, but the murder happens in the first episode, and they show the Menendez brothers kill their parents in very gruesome detail. See,
I think the other problem with these series too is they cast a very likable young actor as the serial killer. And I remember when the Ted Bundy one came out with Zac Efron, like people were saying Ted Bundy was hot again. Like,
I think this
isn't okay.
I think that's more of a unfortunate side effect of what they were trying to do with that casting. Because I actually think it was great casting. Because, you know, you're taking someone who is viewed as like a charismatic, handsome lad like Zac Efron to play someone who was unfortunately getting away with murder because of those exact qualities.
It just
pulling it off because of those exact qualities.
But again, it's very much, I think the difference is they did that to profit off of it, and it was what's the right word I'm looking for?
Exploitive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely was.
I would say so. I think me seeing Dahmer makes me forgive that movie, because Dahmer, I think, is so much worse. Because it felt like a slap in the face to the victims of those crimes, because they basically went out, made a movie, said made a series. We're not going to humanize Dahmer. We're not going to make him like relatable. We're not going to even show it through his perspective. The first half of the show is through his eyes completely. I think it just shows that there are ways to do a true crime movie, and there are ways to not, or media rather. And this, I would say, falls into the way to do it because it never feels exploitive or.
He always makes you feel gross.
Yes.
And at every point, he makes you feel gross. You do not feel comfortable at any point. And there's a lot of. I feel like a lot of the focus is on women whose stories aren't being heard. And that's what I really like about it is that the point of this movie is to say, hey, listen to women, and it's not to say, here, look at this terrible thing that happened.
Because, and I actually do believe the movie did receive some criticism for the portrayal of Rodney Akala. Because they made him so obviously creepy and gross. Because apparently it's not true to. He was much more of a Ted Bundy.
Well, you can tell. The thing is, you can tell that.
Yeah.
Because there's a switch. But you feel gross the entire time because you know.
Yeah.
And the movie doesn't kind of trick you into trusting him. If you know what I mean. Like, I feel like in the Ted Bundy stuff, like there's a lot of moments where you're tricked into trusting him or you feel bad for him in some places. But there is no point in this movie where you feel bad for Rodney.
No, he's a
he still comes off as the charismatic and you still see that. I don't think it's an inaccurate portrayal, but I would say that they do it in such a way that you don't fall for the charisma.
Yeah.
I guess.
But I think that this is it's such a touchy subject, true crime. And I personally think true crime belongs in documentaries and should not be adapted to film or TV. I think it's distasteful. I think there are ways to make it like less distasteful, but like I think that this movie, and especially what they've done behind the scenes and with the money that they've made from it, or at least the money Anna Kendrick made, Netflix is probably swimming in money, going,
of course,
like, you know,
hi,
but
honey.
It just, oh my goodness, it's so distracting. Oh.
She likes to have something to perch on, so you might offer an arm.
Hold on.
No, there she goes.
Okay.
She was like, I realized that I was not meant to sit here.
She will be our guest for the evening. But what was I saying? I don't even remember.
Kat
you
took
were
the train of thought.
saying that true crime type of stuff should only belong in documentaries, not be on TV, like in a film TV show setting.
Yeah, I think there's only a few ways you can make it palatable and not feel exploitive. The way this movie does it is very close. Good intentions were there, but I still it still makes me feel yucky when I watch it, you know, and I think that might be the point, but
that's definitely the point.
I still, you know, and I think maybe through the eyes of law enforcement, when you're just kind of seeing maybe aftermaths or, you know, hearing like the stories, that's maybe more acceptable to me. But it's just such a slippery slope because it's so delicate that it's so easy to mess it up. And I feel like almost every true crime film or TV show messes it up and does something I don't like and does something that makes me say, like, this shouldn't have been made. This movie isn't one of those. I think that this movie is important. It has it has something good to say, something important to say. And I think that's what really matters, no matter how much money it happens to make. I guess that's where my praise comes from for it, is that it's not Dahmer.
Yeah.
And it's not whatever they call the Ted Bundy movie.
Yeah.
Despicably vile.
Oh, that's right. That's
wickedly
right.
evil,
Yeah,
whatever. Whatever the judge said about Ted, that's what they called it. And it's not the Menendez brothers story. And those are just the 3 most recent examples that I can think of, because it's like a lot of people don't touch this stuff with a 10-foot pole. And so when I do say that it can be handled right, like I think of Zodiac, is a really good movie.
Is that the Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
one? That's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
I really love that movie.
You get a bit too intimate of a look at some of the Zodiac's kills.
Yeah.
Very graphic.
Yeah.
But I think the type of shock value they're going for is not for the sake of shock value.
I will say like true crime does well in a procedural type setting.
Yes. That's Mindhunter.
Mindhunter.
That's a great show. It's only somewhat based in it's based on real killers in the show. But I'm pretty sure the FBI characters are only loosely based on real people. But that's another way that it kind of works is
well, and I was also thinking of
never through the killer's perspective.
No.
And I don't think you should ever see the killer that much. I think it should be more about either the victims or the process of bringing them to justice.
I think as well, like, why did I just forget the name of the show that I absolutely adore? Never mind. I'm losing my mind today.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit off. But basically, sorry, completely just.
No, you're good. This episode honestly has turned more into a discussion about true crime media than talking about the movie itself. So I think maybe let's get into the movie a little bit further, and then maybe we can pick it up. Because I do think it's important to like acknowledge the responsibility that people should have when handling these topics.
And that's the biggest thing with this movie. I think that Anna Kendrick took that responsibility and she took it seriously.
Yes.
Seriously enough that she felt the need to donate her profits, which is something that you don't see people do.
No, not at all.
And when she did this film, she volunteered her time directing as well. I'm not sure if she got paid for the acting she did in the movie or not, but I do know that she volunteered her time directing.
I mean, you gotta make a living, so like,
yeah, absolutely.
She's not the devil if she took a paycheck.
No, absolutely not.
Know?
Absolutely not.
And I mean, it's the same as like Evan Peters played Dahmer. I'm not gonna criticize him for taking the paycheck.
No, and that's
especially
not what I'm saying.
If I'm being objective, he did an amazing job.
Ugh.
It's not a fun thing to do an amazing job at. I imagine it screwed him up for a little while.
I think it did.
It definitely did.
It definitely did, because he hasn't really done that much since, I feel like.
Yeah.
He's in the WandaVision and Agatha All Along stuff, but
he nailed it. And that's, I think, what makes it so much worse is it's so close to the real guy. He looks and sounds just like him. But back to this movie. So, like I said earlier, the movie has the central through line of the dating game, but throughout you get I don't know, vignettes, short films.
Yeah, vignettes is a good way to put it. It's like a bunch of vignettes
of Rani Akala's murders. And it opens up with one, and it's very upsetting. One thing that he would do is he would strangle women until they were just about dead, revive them, and then keep doing that repeatedly. And we unfortunately have to witness that in the first scene of the movie. And that's kind of your introduction to what you're going to see, because it's, like I said, the kill scenes that happen are not very, they're not too gratuitous, but they are long enough to make you uncomfortable. And the performances are very good, unfortunately, for us watching.
Yeah.
So it kind of opens with that. And then you kind of just ping pong around. It's hard to talk about this movie as plot.
Yeah. We kind of get to meet Cheryl. She's a struggling actress. She has a really creepy guy who lives in her apartment who has a really big crush on her and won't leave her alone. I will say creepy men is a central theme of this movie. Men being terrible is a central theme of this movie. Because you can see as like a woman who lives in the world, this is a thing that happens. Like, there is a certain amount of entitlement that some men do have, even if they're like kind of more shy and less outgoing. There is this entitlement of, well, I've given you something, so now you have to give me something back. Or I've given you time and energy, and now you have to date me because I like you. And that's what we're getting from this guy, is that energy. The what do they call those guys?
Nice guys.
Yeah, nice guys.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what that is.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate. I wish there was like one good dude in the movie.
There's not.
They don't have any good dudes.
They're
in the movie.
all Actually, there is one good dude.
The one dude who screwed up the one time, but he brought the flowers.
Yes, the boyfriend, and he didn't even screw up that bad. He was trying really hard.
Honestly, I thought his thought process wasn't too ridiculous.
So, okay, we're gonna just jump around because this movie just jumps around.
So there's a woman who recognizes contestant number 3, which is Rodney.
Mm-hmm.
Which they made him contestant number 3 for dramatic effect because he'd be last to be announced, but he was contestant number 1 in real life. And she recognizes him because her friend she left her friend with him at a beach, and then she was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And so she recognizes him and like has a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
And her boyfriend like finds her in her car and is like, "What's going on?" She was like, "I'm pretty sure contestant number 3 is the man who killed her." And what he should have done is just be supportive and at least try to see if there's something that can be done. But I think he had a pretty reasonable,
he was trying
reaction.
To rationalize.
Yeah.
And
she's freaking
I think
out.
That's
and he's like,
fair.
"Hey, like, that was a really horrible time for you. You know, you might be seeing his face everywhere. Like,
and that's okay.
You need to like,
let's take a second. Let's breathe out here. Let's think through this." Because he does say like, "Hey, if
you're wrong."
That's not what he says. He says like, he may just look like him. That's like the first point he says. And he says, you know, this is a big game show. They got to vet the people on the show. And he says, and if you reported him, the police had to question him. And he must be fine. You're safe. Everything's fine. So I don't think he did anything particularly wrong. It just wasn't like, it is hard to be freaking out about something and have someone trying to help you and you don't know what they need to say to help you and you don't know how they're supposed to help you, but they say the wrong thing and you just kind of need the space. And I think that's just what happened here.
Yeah. Like, I remember thinking, I'm like, when he's doing it, I'm like, I think he's a good dude.
Yeah, no, he's
like,
fine. He's the only good dude. He is the only good dude in this
jacket,
movie.
Okay, like
he is the only good dude, and maybe the
contestant
dad.
number 1. poor guy was just kind of didn't know what to say to all the questions.
Why did he go on a game show?
I don't know.
Why was contestant number 1 there to just go, I
want to know if we're one of the contestants. I need to rewatch the.
Yeah, because I guess
I've never seen it. I need to watch. We should have done that before we did this. We should have watched the dating.
Because I have seen comparisons, and it is like kind of the. They say the same things. I'm sure there were, but they are saying like the same exact things and asking the same questions. So it's interesting. But yeah, so the nice guy isn't so nice a guy, and she doesn't get a part, but she gets this spot on the dating game to get her scene, and she goes out to dinner with him, and he tries to ask her out, and then when she kind of says no, he starts freaking out a little bit, and so she like compromises, I guess, would be a way to put that.
A word.
It would be a word.
So she goes on to the game show. Well, she gets to the studio.
Yeah.
And you get a little behind the scenes peek at.
The makeup ladies are amazing.
They're funny.
I love them. They're like, every man on here is so gross.
I mean,
there was that one guy, and he was really hot, but he was an idiot.
That's the nature of this, like the dating game as a concept is like, it's not there to actually set people up. It's there to be entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like all the contestants that go on there are just trying to be entertaining. I bet you like at least like I bet you 60% at least of the people who won don't even go on the date.
Oh yeah, probably not.
And that's being generous, saying 60%.
Yeah. Well, considering they don't like leave the show and fly out to it, that was kind of shocking to me because when you look at dating game shows, like nowadays, I guess they look less like game shows, but like
The Button.
Oh God, I haven't watched a lot of The Button.
The Button is like sometimes when I want to punish myself, I'll watch The Button.
Oh my God,
because it is the most uncomfortable thing watching two people go up, and almost every time, as soon as the button glows,
it is nice sometimes because they do go, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just not feeling it.
It's been 10 seconds. It's so shallow. I hate it. But it's cheap entertainment. Oh my God, she's sleeping on your knee.
Very cute. Or like I'm thinking of like The Bachelorette, Love is Blind.
Love on the Spectrum.
James. They like specifically Love is Blind because I watched a lot of that because the first season came out in 2020 and I had nothing better to be doing.
I don't think a lot of us did.
And the first season was great. They've gotten so shitty since, but basically the concept of that is, if you don't know, is that contestants kind of stay on opposite sides of like I'm guessing a huge building.
Oh wait, I've seen this show.
Yeah, and then they go into rooms and they can't see each other and they basically do the dating process without ever seeing each other and they're engaged by the end of it.
Oh God, I just remembered that show because I just watched this episode and this guy met the lady in the dark and he like purposefully like felt her hips and he was like, there was a small divot. She's fat.
In the dark?
Oh, I'm thinking of a different show. Wait, what did you say? How does Love is Dark go? Love is blind. I mean, I'm thinking of a different one.
They're in rooms that they can hear each other, but they can't see. They're like behind a wall. And they date out multiple days and then like get to know each other most of the time. You know how it goes when you're like stuck talking to someone and you kind of like them, where it suddenly goes from like, hey, what's your favorite movie to my mom died when I was 12, you know, like stuff like that. So then they make these like deep connections and then they decide to get engaged and they meet each other when they get engaged.
Okay. So I think it's an older show. It was very similar. They stayed in different rooms and they would just like talk to each other. And they were able to like pick another contestant and they would go into literally a dark room and they could talk to each other in the dark room and they could feel each other in the dark room.
No, these people just talk to each other. They don't see each other. They get to know about their backgrounds and stuff. It's whatever they want to talk about, they're allowed to talk about.
It's kind of a similar
but they
show.
don't see each other. The purpose is love really blind is the purpose of the show. And honestly, I think they've done a fairly good, if it wasn't a game show, I think they could have proven the theory. The thing is, it's gotten worse and worse as the seasons go on.
At the end of the day, it's reality TV.
Yeah. I don't know about any couples from any other seasons, but the first one, I don't think any couples from the second season lasted. Not any of them that aired. I do think some of the non-aired couples made it.
I mean, how many bachelor or bachelorette couples actually end up an actual couple?
But the first season had some really great matchups, and like they're all like all the ones that you could tell actually loved each other by the end of the first season are still together, and some of them are having a baby. It's very cute.
What's the dating show that like our friend group was obsessed with watching that was about the MILF Island or something?
Oh my God, Love Island.
Is that what it's called?
It's called Love Island. Too Hot to Handle. Is that what it is?
It's where a bunch of moms and a bunch of sons.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, it's a bunch of moms.
What is that?
Bring their sons to an island, and the contestants are the moms and the sons.
Ew.
It's so weird.
No. I purposely didn't bring up Too Hot to Handle because it's just like this. They're all just idiots, and they go on this like reality TV show where everyone just drinks and has fun and stays in a beach villa, and then they get there and their fake Alexa thing tells them, oh, by the way, you guys can't win your however many $1 million prize if you sleep together. Every time you are intimate, you lose this much money. It's disgusting. It is so gross. And the contestants on it, I don't know if they're actually dumb or if they're playing dumb or if they're made to just look dumb.
MILF Manor. That's what it was called. Oh,
that is a porno title.
Single women between 40 and 60 seek love with single men in their 20s while staying in a beautiful retreat in Mexico. It's leaving out the part where the men in their 20s are the sons of the women in their 40s and 60s. Available on Discovery Plus.
Oh my God.
It has a 3.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
That's just a porno.
No, it's a very
no, that's just a porno. I hate to tell you, but that's just a porno.
It's torture.
Anyway,
it's torture.
In Love is Blind, when they go on past getting engaged, right? They fly out to the next section of the reality show. Or like most of the nowadays, I feel like most of the time when there's a second part or a date or a special vacation, they fly out immediately after the show. No, they just went home. They were like, can we exchange numbers so when we get this free vacation, we can like actually do the date? What is the point of the show? I'm a little lost on that. I'm really glad she didn't go on the date. Really glad she wasn't forced into that. But what?
Yeah. Dating shows are weird, and they've always been weird, and this incident is proof.
Yeah. But basically, so when she gets there, like the host of the game show is really gross. He keeps making really gross comments. He is entitled. That man is a prick. And
he's a game show host. What do you expect? In the 70s.
Just a little more of a facade, maybe. There's a little less outward prickiness.
We can't always have Steve Harvey, okay?
Naked grandma.
Kill! This is lighting the mood significantly.
Oh yeah, for sure. But she does the game show, and contestant number 3 is giving the best answers because contestant number 1 can't get a word out of his mouth. Contestant number 2 is just a gross man.
He's like your average, like the normal kind of gross.
Yeah. He is a normal gross man. He is just a regular frat boy.
Yeah. And he even shows he has a soul because, unfortunately, contestant number 3, who is Rodney, gives all the right answers, because he's gross, so he just knows what to say.
He was, so some background, I did some research. So he was in the military for a little bit and ended up going AWOL. And so I guess somehow he ended up back there and they dismissed him for medical reasons. That was because he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, and he also had an IQ of 135. But throughout his trials, they found that he also probably had narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. There was one more. There was another narcissistic diagnosis in there, but
so he has almost the entirety of the cluster B personality disorders.
Yeah. So basically,
what a cocktail.
He is manipulative as fuck. So of course he knows exactly the right thing to say.
Yeah.
But throughout all of that, he is kind of playing mine is bigger with contestant number 2, and contestant number 2 like goes to beat him up, and he's like, we'll exchange addresses, we'll exchange information, and we can beat each other up or whatever. And contestant number 2 gives him the information, and Rodney gives him back a Polaroid of some woman that he murdered with blood and everything all over him.
So did that actually happen?
I don't know.
I doubt it.
I sincerely doubt it, because I doubt that when the guy who just got showed up on the fucking game show wouldn't immediately go to the police and be like, this guy's a creep. Stop him. But so at the end of the show, when she inevitably picks contestant number 3 because he's saying all the right things, they introduce all the contestants, and contestant number 2 comes over and does like the European like cheek kiss thing, and then whispers in her ear, "Hey, look out for that guy."
Yeah, because she's been basically dogging on contestant number 1 and 2 the whole time, because 2 was kind of asking for it, but as they're getting like, because the way the show works is at the end the losers like walk by, they are revealed. And as he walks by Cheryl, he says, "Be careful with that prick."
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's got to be something real if the prickiest one on the show said something about it.
I think to me, now, this is probably just because I do this to everybody. To me, I feel like contestant number 2 does a lot of talking. It probably has never got laid in his life.
No, he's just insecure.
Yeah, probably. Probably. That's why he wasn't going to beat contestant number 3 up right then and there. So that's why when he saw the chance, he was like, "Hey, this guy's creepy. You need to fucking look out," basically.
And he's proven right almost immediately.
Yeah.
Because afterward they go out for drinks. And going through this, I'm realizing how short the actual dating game section of this movie is.
Yeah. Isn't it weird?
Like maybe 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Like the entirety of Cheryl's story.
Yeah.
But they go out for drinks, and he's clearly very creepy.
Yeah, it starts out okay. He's still got the charm on and whatever. What does she say?
She says something that sets him off. I forget what it is.
Oh, I remember what happened. She quoted a play that he didn't know. And so then he pretended to know, and she kind of could tell he didn't really know. So, but she just laughs it off. But he could tell that she did the thing where
it's a very scary look that, like, obviously, like, you're not going to see it on the eyes of a serial killer before, but you can see this happen with people who are fake in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, not just fake, but, like,
where it breaks.
You know, they have a mask on. Like, and when you accidentally, usually is how it's going to happen, accidentally, like, expose it, their demeanor just drops into something else.
Yeah.
And that's what that was, I think, the most tense part of the movie for me, is just seeing that happen. It's like, oh no.
You're like, get out of there, Cheryl.
They finish their drinks. He slams the drink down. And the waitress walks by and he's like, can we get 2 more? We had the Mai Tais. And he's turned around and she does the smart thing and goes, no.
And the waitress says, sorry, we just did last call.
So then we get this very tense scene of them walking to the car. He asks for her number. She obviously gives him a fake one.
And then he says, hey, I just want to make sure this is right. Can you, like, tell me your number?
And she unfortunately can't remember it. So pro tip, if you have a fake number that you use, remember it.
Use one of those, like, TikTok ones. There's a couple, I have it down in my notes somewhere. There's a couple of numbers that you can put down that they are real numbers and people can call them. And it basically just says, hey, like, girl wasn't into you. Sorry about it, man. She gave you a fake number.
That's hilarious.
It is kind of funny, but it also serves a pretty good purpose of like, this is a number that someone can actually call. It'll actually lead somewhere. It's not going to call a random person. And you can just have it memorized too. So if someone asks for your number, you give them one of those and then it explains to them, like, girl wasn't into you. She gave you a fake number. Sorry, man.
And this scene is so scary because he just kind of he's already put it together, but he just wants her to say it, you know, because he's psycho. He's just like, so I take it we're not going on that trip, are we? And then he's just like, I'll see you around. And he like mutters under his breath, and then I'll bash your fucking head in.
Yeah. I don't understand why she doesn't just run.
And I'm wondering how much of this is
real.
True to what Cheryl went through. It seems like, as far as the movie's like end notes, because it has end notes kind of wrapping up things. There wasn't much about her besides that she, you know, went on to move home and start a family.
Yeah, I feel like
I wonder how much was creative liberty, because I don't know exactly. All we know is all I saw when I was doing a little bit of background on the case before we did this was he gave her the creeps afterward and she declined the date. That's all I think is known, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I have no idea, but so she starts walking quickly back to her car. I think this is, again, this series of events here is the most tense part of the movie. She quickly starts walking back to her car, and at first you just kind of see him standing there, and then it draws focus back to her walking to her car. And then slowly you start to see him appear in the frame as well, following her. And she gets faster and faster, and he gets faster and faster. She starts running. He starts running. She unlocks the car, and he ends up getting between the car door and her, and by just thank God, some people from the studio start coming out, and he ends up going away. And she locks the car door and drives herself home.
Yep, and that's pretty much the end of Cheryl's story.
Yeah.
I think we'll briefly touch on how he was caught.
Yeah.
So there's another story that's kind of woven more than the other, like what we called vignettes of.
Yeah, basically. So the vignettes are just kind of recounts of the other cases within this story. So there's not really a lot of detail to go into there. I don't really want to go into detail with them. If you're curious, watch the movie, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to go into like how he gets caught? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just was clarifying on
gotcha.
the other vignettes.
So long story short, he picked up a runaway.
Mm-hmm.
He drove her out to the desert. Took her pictures, which is basically his MO. It's what we've seen him do. He comes up behind her and hits her, and then we cut back to the main story. And when we come back to that, we cut back to her on the ground, like clearly beaten. Like clearly stuff has happened, and the way she got away was, instead of like waking up and panicking, she just looks at him and basically says like, "Hey, can we not tell anybody about this? It'll be embarrassing for me." Like, kind of plays like this is normal. Hey, this is okay. Like, this is exactly what I signed up for. I'm just a little embarrassed, like kind of like a Hail Mary, but a genius like way to collect yourself and find a way out, because he agrees, and just she says, "Okay, can you undo?" You like makes jokes with him. It's like, "Oh, you used to be a Boy Scout. This is a great knot." As her hands are tied up, they get in the car. They drive to a gas station, and he says, "I'm gonna go take a leak." She runs to a nearby cafe and calls the cops, and he's arrested. And that's how it happened. There's not much detail to go into.
Yeah.
But it's a crazy amount of bravery.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to pull that off, because I don't know how you could like regain your composure like that in a moment like that. It's very terrifying that he was able to walk again after that and kill 2 more people before he was actually put away.
Yeah.
But after 31 years, he was somehow eligible for parole, and the runaway, I don't think we were ever given her name.
Yeah, and I just looked it up to see. My guess is she remained anonymous.
Yeah.
Because no source has her name on it anywhere.
She showed up and testified at the trial.
Yeah.
And that was basically the nail in the coffin. And he was locked away, and he died in 2021.
Yeah.
Good riddance. Rest in piss.
Yeah, for real.
So that's the movie.
Yep. That is Woman of the Hour.
That is Woman of the Hour. Let's do some Q&As so we can be happier.
Yes, please.
Okay. Do you guys also maybe want to take the opportunity to talk about like what is horror? Because I know that's a topic that you've wanted to cover before, and that this movie might be a good opportunity.
That's actually a good idea. I think we should briefly touch on it, but we want to do a whole episode about this.
Yeah, because it's a long conversation.
Because we have disagreements.
Yes.
I would call this particularly horror, what I call horror adjacent. It's not a horror movie, but it has elements of horror that I believe have it like it's in its DNA. Because I think genre is not so much putting things in boxes. It's more of like a weave. You know, there's just different elements of different genres in every movie. But how about you in regards to just this movie? Because we do plan on doing kind of like an editorial style episode.
Yeah.
About what is horror.
This movie, it essentially has horror elements. It has the suspense, and obviously you are horrified throughout the movie, but it doesn't make a point of those elements, which is what a horror movie would do. We have no stings. We have no, I guess, what would make it a horror movie for me would be like making those elements of the movie the point of the movie, and that's not what this is.
Because I wouldn't even call this a thriller.
Yeah.
I would call this a drama.
Yeah, for sure.
Or like a historical drama. But there are some elements of horror in its DNA. So stay tuned for our What is Horror episode whenever we decide to do that.
when we have time to do the research involved.
It'll probably be some point in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm ready to answer questions.
Me too.
Hopefully there's some fun ones.
Please.
Sure. So first off, from LT Timmy Turner, how do you feel about Captain Spaulding, I think is how you would say the name? Who out of your group of friends does he remind you of the most?
So Captain Spaulding is a character from the from House of a Thousand Corpses and other Rob Zombie projects in that series. He's a clown who runs. He runs a gas station / highway attraction / horror serial killer museum on the side of the road. And, you know, this might just be me, but oddly enough, I think I'm the most like Captain Spaulding. He's a despicable person, but he's very funny. That's how I'd answer that question. Ashton hasn't seen that movie
I
yet.
have not.
Okay, ready for the next one?
Yes.
Do you think you'll do a horror anthology like Cabinet of Curiosities? I skipped over the name because I don't know how to pronounce it. The guy who made it. It's like Guillermo
del Toro.
Yeah. I can never pronounce that. I'm sorry.
Well, we have done anthologies.
We've done a couple anthologies. I like anthology movies. I like how we get to cover them.
Yeah, it's fun.
Because honestly, in the amount of like full movie, like what's the word I'm looking for?
Feature length?
No.
What? Full movie?
No, like different bunch of movies.
Anthology.
No.
Series.
I guess.
Franchise.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. My brain is. It's been a couple weeks of just not being able to think right. When we've been covering these different franchises, besides Chucky, because that was a rough month for me. I've been really enjoying doing episodes covering a whole bunch of different movies together. It's nice to kind of get to sum up and review and get to kind of give a review on a whole like fully fledged out story, it feels like.
Yeah. I think it's in like our like experimenting with doing that has kind of changed how we do our normal episodes too. I think we know how to it's helped us find what things we don't really even need to talk about, what things we can skip over. Because that's the thing I think we struggled with early in our podcast was we kind of would go.
We wanted to give you every detail.
Moment by scene, and it would kind of lead to losing my train of thought or getting bored because I'm recounting the movie scene by scene of that I just watched.
But I think anthology movies give us the chance to do the same thing, but also like not have to spend all week trying to make sure we watch all the movies before the episode.
Yeah. Now, if we're talking anthology shows, that's a little bit harder. Because Cabinet of Curiosities is really good. I've not seen all of the episodes, but there's some really good horror stories in there. And I think of stuff like Tales from the Crypt or Twilight Zone, and it's like
Black Mirror.
Like I love that stuff.
Or new Twilight Zone.
Oh my God, what if we did Black Mirror, watched every episode and tier listed it? That'd be fun.
I don't think I'd be sane.
Black Mirror is a very bleak show.
Black Mirror is so bleak.
But yeah, so it's something to consider in the future because if we're ever going to cover shows, which I think we will at some point, it's going to have to be how we cover the same way we cover anthology movies. It's going to have to be a condensed look at something really long. Or really with a lot of different stories. Because I do want to eventually cover TV. It's just, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot different than cutting an anthology movie or cutting down a film series. Because the thing is, when we do film series, we have to do them in threes, basically, is how we've been doing it. Because talking about 7 movies in one episode is just, we're not going to do any of them much justice.
Yeah. I also think at the moment we have very busy lives. We both have jobs. We're both in school full time. And watching that much would be a little bit hard for us to tackle at the moment, but
in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could interweave it throughout.
Yeah, but I wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is kind of where we're at. Not at the moment, but maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so that question was from Schnugens, by the way.
Thank you, Schnugens.
Next up from the Spooky Slipstream, do you guys want me to back off a little on the random questions?
No, keep it up.
Yeah, we like them. It's fun.
You did actually already respond to them.
That's fine.
There was not
I forgot
a marker
to exit.
on it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, another question from Schnugens. Largest roller coaster both of you have ridden. What is the largest roller coaster?
Well,
Top Thrill 2?
It would be Top Thrill 2. However, how define... He said largest.
Yeah, largest.
So
roller
that
coaster.
could also mean longest, not necessarily highest.
What would be the longest
so
one?
I'm guessing it's the Beast.
I was gonna say
on.
probably the Beast, because I can't think of one that's gonna be longer than the Beast.
I think it's the Beast, but I'm just gonna fact check myself.
What one are you thinking of?
Yep. The Beast is the longest roller coaster in the U.S.
Oh, really?
Yes. It is
The Voyage?
7,361 feet of track.
The Voyage isn't longer?
No.
Really?
Voyage is not longer.
Oh, I would have thought it was. We haven't ridden it, but maybe that's why I thought it was.
I have also been on the second and third longest. Because the second longest is Fury 325 in Carowinds, and the third longest is Millennium Force.
Really?
Yeah, in the U.S. at least.
Oh.
Not in the world. The Voyage is fourth.
Okay.
Incredicoaster at Disney California Adventure is fifth.
Really?
Wow, that's weird. And then Steel Vengeance is sixth.
So essentially, the tallest roller coaster we've ridden is going to be Top Thrill 2.
Yes.
But the longest is the Beast. So there's your answer.
Yes. Okay. And so I can feel unique. The tallest and longest combined for me is Fury 325. Alrighty. And next question.
Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood?
I've never even given Back 4 Blood a chance. Left 4 Dead all the time.
Huh?
They're video games.
Oh. I feel like I've heard of Left 4 Dead. I have not heard of Back 4 Blood.
It was a spiritual successor, basically, but
Heard.
It didn't take off like Left 4 Dead.
Heard.
Next question.
Yeah.
What do you think of cosmic horror?
I love cosmic horror, but I wish it could be better represented in film.
What would that
cosmic
be?
horror would be like it's not just space horror, it's more like ethereal.
So would it be sort of
the
like
best example I can think of is Annihilation with Natalie Portman.
Okay.
In terms of movies, but I think Cthulhu counts.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it
I don't know if he's really cosmic horror or more just ethereal and Lovecraftian. It's literally named after him, the genre. But
yeah, I was gonna say, is that just Lovecraftian or is it?
Because cosmic isn't necessarily just space related. I don't think. Let me look at the actual definition of cosmic horror and see if I'm just overthinking it. Yeah, Lovecraftian horror is the same as cosmic horror.
Okay, heard. Yeah. We haven't covered anything.
There's not much.
There's not really a lot when it comes to that.
You could call let me look at examples of movies and see what people consider
Lovecraftian or cosmic.
I don't think you've seen any of these.
I have, in fact, watched Markiplier play a dating game where he dates. What kind of thing is Cthulhu? What's
he's like Cthulhu?
He's Cthulhu.
No, there's like a Eldritch.
Oh. Yeah, Eldritch horror.
Yeah, he where it's an Eldritch dating game. That was interesting. So I guess I have seen something.
There's 2 John Carpenter movies.
Oh, really?
In the Mouth of Madness and Prince of Darkness are both.
I haven't seen either of those.
I've seen Prince of Darkness, but I barely remember it.
Think it's about Cthulhu.
But yeah, examples would be like Prometheus, Annihilation, Color Out of Space, The Ritual. The Ritual, really? I guess. It's kind of Lovecraftian. But yeah, that's all we have time for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to keep it up here on Room 237.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with us as we uncomfortably tiptoed around true crime.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah.
My bad, guys.
We'll see you next week where we'll be covering something else.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
JumperScape.com.
Thank you for joining us this evening, stranger. If you enjoyed your time with us, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/JumperScape or join the community at discord.gg/JumperScape. We thank you for your listenership and hope you enjoyed.